Total Recall 2012. Actually, a remake, a reboot. If you want to check out Total Recall, check out the first one as well, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Great film, a lot of fun. It's a good popcorn film, a lot of great lines, a lot of fun action. Motion designer Ash Thorpe. He worked on Prometheus, X-Men, Sherlock Holmes, Thor, Spider-Man, Walking Dead, Ender's Game. Scores of others, including this movie, Total Recall. And the thing is with studios, most VFX studios, they do not keep graphic user interfaces or user interfaces designers on staff, full-time core. They hire outside artists who specialize in just this type of work because it's very specialized and you don't need it all the time. One such designer is Ash Thorpe. He's worked on these films. And what he uses is basically Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, programs available basically to anybody out there, right? Nothing too specialized about that, nothing secret about how to create this stuff. And these are the actual designs flattened out. This is the actual Photoshop file from Total Recall. Simple, elegant images, large enough to scale without artifact or blurring issues. If you're going to rasterize your content, which is the opposite of vector, if you're wondering what the difference is between vector and rasterization, you really need to know that if you're going to be a digital artist, especially if your work starts getting blurry or broken down or resampled, you need to know what you're creating. Vector images are images created purely with math. And by that, I mean that nothing is actually baked down into the pixels. Arcs are procedurally generated, circles, gradients. And why is that an advantage? Because you can scale it at any resolution whatsoever, and it's going to look perfectly crisp and perfectly high degree of quality. You could take an image that you build in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, scale it up for a billboard, and it's going to look perfect. You cannot do that in, for the most part, in Photoshop. Photoshop has some vectorized vector tools. However, Photoshop is mainly a rasterization tool, which means you're just actually editing the pixels directly, as opposed to a vector tool. Vector tools are mostly the prominent mainstay of Adobe Illustrator. So that's a huge difference between the two. They are actual, so like I was saying, these are the actual PSD designs. Now, you don't know how close these elements are going to get to the camera, so you need to build them large enough for any eventuality. You don't want them to be too blurry or too low res, then you got to rebuild it at the last minute. And notice they're all black and white. And why are they built this way? Because you can add the color, the glow, the intensity later on in post. Don't bake any effect in because you may realize that the effect is wrong or not enough or too little, or too much. And you want to have that control later on in post. So color, glow, intensity, control that in Nuke or After Effects. Never bake in an effect if you don't have to. Non-destructive editing is key because people and directors obviously are always changing their minds, right? And you want to be able to respond to those changes. So here's some of the graphics placed into the helmets of these soldiers. And obviously you can play around with the opacity, the depth of field, the color, the glow, all that good stuff like that. Some more before and afters in Total Recall. Here's a shot of our hero, right? And this is an interesting shot here. And the reason I'm pointing this out isn't so much a hologram or user interface. It's actually the woman's tattoo. The tattoo painted right over here on her back. Maybe they were trying to use some luminescent paint, but it just wasn't working. It doesn't read like the creative heads decided it should. So instead of keeping it in the film, here is the final tattoo. Much brighter, much more intense. Maybe in the future they have, some kind of, luminosity tattoos going on. But I thought that was interesting because somebody decided we don't like it. We need it to be much, much, much different, much better. And so they had to paint out the tattoo and then put a new one in. Okay, so oftentimes it's easier if she didn't have anything there at all because now you don't have to take something out before putting it in. Tracking markers on these elements, in my opinion, not really needed because these tracking markers, although they're great, one, they're pretty small. They're probably going to be depth of field out. But this big shape against this contrast, there's your planar tracker right there. But here's the final. And plus, if you don't put in tracker markers and you're just using the shapes of things, then you don't have to paint them all out. And they had to paint all these out for all these shots, and it's easier if you just don't put them in my opinion. Another shot of our hero here, and here's just some treatment on top of that. A couple more before and afters. This actress here is kind of like a throwback to one of the famous scenes in the original movie, if you know what I'm talking about. There's a woman that kind of looks like this woman in the original film who takes her head off and it expands and it shows Arnold, and then the head is actually a bomb. Crazy movie. Check it out if your kind of interest is piqued at that point. But here is the UI and all the good stuff kind of put around it. People walking through security back there, as you can see. Here's another shot of security. Now, today's security, we have to put our laptops in bins and take our shoes and socks off. This security seems a little bit more robust. I think I would have a lot more fun going to the airport if this is what the security protocols actually look like. More user interface. So the design is half the battle. The design of it, the look of it, but then it's the compositing of it in the shot that really makes it shine, that really brings it all to life, right? A couple more shots right here of putting all this into, obviously requires really strong camera tracking, so it doesn't slide around and it doesn't look fake and stuff like that. Here's another shot right here from the studio, The Senate. Of course, still images don't do it justice. Let's take a look at some before and afters of